common misunderstanding is we consume more protein to build lean muscle mass. This is often seen in athletes who consume high amounts of protein shakes in order to improve their overall strength or just in general their physical gains for their sport or activity, or even someone in the anti-aging field who's trying to avoid sarcopenia for better functional ability, but also to avoid injury. We have to understand the body from more of a physiological standpoint. How does the muscle actually build itself? We can't just go out there and consume soy, whey, or meat proteins and think that by consuming that protein, it actually turns into the protein or muscle that we need in the body. We have to understand the building blocks of actually how it comes together. No different than a building when you're constructing it from an architectural standpoint and you have different pieces you're putting together. That's actually how the protein builds in the body itself. So let's just break it down. We're thinking about the body in general. There's essential amino acids, meaning the amino acids that we need to actually structure that protein. So whenever we eat a source of food or consume something, it breaks itself down in the body and it breaks it into amino acids at a deeper level and then puts together, structures that protein to something that we need as far as that part of that body. So we're thinking about it from a standpoint of quality as far as the actual food we're consuming. Sometimes we don't need all those actual amino acids that's broken down. And then what ends up happening, this excess, the extra amount of amino acids are turned into glucose or actually stored as body fat. So if we're not careful, and let's just say you're one of those that you're actually trying to increase your performance, or maybe you're even in the standpoint of you're trying to lose weight, you can actually be increasing the amount of weight that you're gaining by not or over consuming either too many proteins or by not actually getting the right amount of amino acids in your body. So I wanted to break it down a little bit further so you had a better idea of actually how to structure your diet and also the different sources that you can utilize to get the best advantage when it comes to your overall lean muscle mass gains. So let's go here, chart here. So protein utilization. So we have BCAAs, branched chain amino acids. These are probably one of the most popular as far as people in the supplement world. And what we'll end up seeing too is so many people taking all of this stuff. Not only, so there are some health benefits to some things that you're taking, meaning not just, this video is specifically more for building protein, the correct proteins, but also building muscle mass. So when you're thinking about some of the other maybe ingredients in these different, whether it's supplements or just in general foods, there may be some additive things in there that do give you some health benefit. But again, the biggest thing is saying, how do we get the most out of our protein, utilizing that protein? So branched chain amino acids here. So we have what's called anabolic, which is the building phase, and catabolic, which is breaking down. So branched chain amino acids are only 1% utilization rate. 1%. That means 99% of the time, the rest of it is converted to glucose, sugar, which can be inflammatory to either your arteries or veins or just in general the body, increase the amount of inflammation, or just in general, 99% is turned into fat. So in general, it's again, understanding it more from a physical standpoint, there's more to it than just saying all of it's turned to fat or all of it's turned to glucose. But from that standpoint, you're really not going to get as much out of it as you want when you're thinking that you're going there, taking a bunch of BCAAs and building that lean muscle mass that you think you're getting by all these supplements, especially when you're doing high doses of it. So the second part is looking at whey, soy, and nuts. So when we think about whey, soy, and nuts, this is pretty common because now you're starting to go back into not just the powder supplements, but the powder shakes. And this is I've done this before, where you're consuming a lot of shakes throughout the day just to get that amount of proteins in. So here's where you have to play the game because there is some advantage to it, because when you're taking the shakes, it may be a little bit more from a standpoint of it's filling, meaning it gives you that sense, the satiation feeling that you don't feel so hungry and you're not sitting there just eating a ton of food throughout the day. So there's definitely some benefits to it. And I'm going to dive into that a little bit more here. And it's also got, other components in there, again, that may be a health factor that you're trying to get into your diet, that you're not either because of time, you're busy, you're on the go, that you're not getting into it. But at the end of the day, again, only 18% is converted to the actual amino acids, the building blocks, the protein that you're looking for. So if you're trying to use it again for that lean muscle mass or just in general the strength gains, you want to reconvert the way you're thinking about this, because you may just actually be causing yourself either a little bit more glucose, sugar, or body fat in your system than you realize it, especially if you're on a weight loss program, anti-aging, or just in general trying to have healthy energy. Now, that means 82% does not get utilized toward protein building. The third, meat, fish, and poultry. Here, you're going to have 32% conversion, so better. But again, 68% is not converted. So again, we got to look at the other factors involved in the meats, the poultry, the fish, There's definitely some other health benefits, especially quality fish, which I'm gonna dive into a little bit more here. But quality fish, the omega-3 fatty acids. So, again, we want to revert this video back to and understand that the concept is more about if you're trying to eat something for its protein source. Again, there's a lot of ancillary other parts to it that you can get out of these sources. So it's not saying don't go eat it, but if your mindset is I'm eating all this because I need more protein, it's just such an overly thing that as far as people think they always have to consume more and more protein. But again, if we're not utilizing it, those amino acids, they're broken down and they're not essential. They get stored to fat or glucose 68%, and thus either the amount of glucose in your body, the amount of inflammation, or just in general amount of excess body fat that you may be converting to. You're not realizing it. This is where people are, I think, feeling like they're missing the big picture here. The best source is going to be, from a whole food standpoint, whole eggs. Now, 48%. So again, still not quite where we want 100%, but 48% is a lot better than branched chain amino acids at 1%. Now, here's the thing I think about is, and this is where, it's all about marketing or maybe just in general, some of the concepts that have been put out there, but egg whites are only 16%. So how often have you been told just eat egg whites to get your sources of protein in? So yeah, you're gonna get some protein, but hey, if I'm only eating 16%, or if I'm only getting 16% of protein out of my egg whites versus 48% out of a whole egg, I'm missing out, right? So a lot of people will do this because they think too, they don't want that egg yolk. And I grew up not knowing this. This is this is where led into a lot of injuries, low energy, just in general, poor brain health, was not having that egg yolk, because it's probably one of the best sources of omega-3 fatty acids. Now I want to place this with the quality of the egg and where it came from, because I'm about to talk to that as far as quality goes here. So assuming you're doing it from a high source, quality source, you're getting the actual benefit that you need by eating whole eggs, because you got that yolk for the omega-3 fatty acids, which is important. Now, people fear cholesterol, but cholesterol, actually, if you have high cholesterol and it's not the LDL, it's actually an improved state of health. Cholesterol is actually good. You have to understand the benefits of it and how it's utilized. It's just when people are at a high oxidized amount, then that's what actually is destructive to the body. So again, 48% versus 16%. That means 52% of the time, it's converted to either glucose or stored as fat, especially on egg whites, 84%. How crazy is that? Now, you would think, like, eating a bunch of egg whites, how could that be where it's converted to, if it's not utilized, converted to glucose, sugar, or body fat, 84%. So understanding this chart is crucial, especially if you're one that's trying to increase your lean muscle mass, your strength, your overall ability to, I would say, functional mobility. Being a physical therapist, athletic trainer, performance coach, this is imperative. I know a lot of people work out, they go to the gym, I see it all the time, and they're having a hard time getting their strength gains or just in general their overall health when it comes to avoiding injury, recovering from an injury, and just in general how the body actually works. So it's understanding this from a little bit more mechanistic game plan of saying, okay, what are the building blocks? A protein, it's broken down into amino acids. The amino acids are the building blocks, but it's not just the amino acids, the essential, meaning essential is what our body needs to create that actual protein. So let's jump into the last part here, which I think is the biggest piece of all of it, is quality, timing, and form. So no matter what you do, a simple rule of thumb is quality versus quantity. A lot of times people are going out there doing high doses of protein, thinking that the more protein I get, the better. Reality is, especially again, where it came from, depends on where it came from. And obviously we saw in this chart, branched chain amino acids, whey, soy, nuts, beet, poultry, fish, and also eggs, each had its own concentration percentage of which one yielded more protein because of the way the breakdown process happened in the body. But also just in general, when I see people a lot of times taking a bunch of supplements or just from low quality brands that add a bunch of fillers in there. They're great at marketing, and you don't know this. You want to get good at reading labels, because on the backside, you're going to see a bunch of fillers in there that are cheap and also causing yourself more health issues, inflammation, weight gain. So it's looking at it from a quality standpoint, not quantity. So again, you want a better quality, you're going to get way more out of it structurally when it comes to the source you have. Going back to also the different food sources, from meat, poultry, fish, whole eggs. It's always about what that animal ate and how it concentrated into their meat, or for example, like the eggs, what got in there. So if you're eating a poor quality egg, meaning that the chicken ate a lot of grain, or you don't see that it's pasture as far as fed, or just in general farm raised. I always go to the farmers market. So much better when you eat whole organic eggs from the farm. So it's understanding just in general what they eat gets into their actual system and is concentrated. So this plays a huge part when we're looking at quality. Going to timing, this is crucial because again, you want to start to look at how you structure your day. And if you're an active person, sometimes your things are going to change. Whether it's like I have a physical job, so I'm always structuring food depending on, is it more of an energy source for the day, or is it more for recovery? And then also timing of, for example, like workouts. How are you gonna, is the body gonna depend on which form is it in? And this is why a lot of times we do see it in branched chain amino acids, whey, soy, meat, or as far as protein shakes, because some things can break down and be more readily available. And that's a big component. What I was saying is, like, don't just look at it from a bad thing, because some of these do have good components and reasons behind it. Because let's just say, for example, I'm going to go do a hardcore workout. Well, maybe I'm doing 2 days. I'm an athlete. I want to have something that breaks down the body and gets absorbed, but I don't want to wait or to go eat a 16-ounce steak for it to break down and try to get it. So let's just say I did 18 versus 32%. So I did the shake versus here. And roughly about half, I'd get more out of eating the steak. But all at the end of the day, do I have the time for that to break down and process for the 2 days to go back to working out? So again, it's just using some a little bit of creative thinking when it comes to this and how you're structuring your diets and the timing of everything. Because again, you can kind of play the game and know that it's not bad to consume these sources, but just know you're not going to get the most of some of these sources. So timing is crucial, especially again when we're using it more from an energy standpoint or more for a recovery standpoint, and also how physically active you are. And the third part, which I feel like is going to be most important too, is also the form that it's in. A lot of times people don't realize this, but the foods, the form that it's in, whether it's raw versus cooked, makes a huge difference. And just in general, sometimes, or let me go into a point where we're looking at these shakes. Some of the proteins are pre-digested. So there are different actual supplements out there that you can get a higher end on the biohacking world that are definitely more strategic on their broken down into their essential amino acid form that are going to be the building blocks for what you need. There's different things out there as far as when you're considering the source of, again, going back to all three of the quality of and timing of it, of how the form that it's in, of how it's going to break down the best in your body. So if we, like, for example, if I have a meat, fish, poultry, and it's overcooked, too well done, then what ends up happening is you denature those proteins. So you really don't get much out of it. So then now I'll take that percentage at 32% and I actually lower it. And so again, it's being smart and strategic when we understand how the body actually breaks down, but also utilize these proteins. So protein utilization is very important. And I think it's a very strong thing that you need to focus on because again, it gives us that functional mobility, meaning because of the strength of our muscles, it gives us that posture, ability to keep moving, and movement is the key to life. I've seen this over and over years, whether it's from professional athletes I've worked with or just in general from people as they age and they get to the point of maybe even they've had disease or sickness and they just don't have the strength or ability to maintain their functional strength and move, and then the body can't detox itself. And that's a huge power play right there is keeping that strength and ability to move to avoid any kind of toxic buildup in the body, but just in general, keeping our energy systems going. So protein utilization is a powerful thing. Understanding it's not just us eating a lot of protein and thinking that whatever we eat is going to be consumed, or what we consume is we're going to actually have that source of protein to build up that muscle. No, it's understanding it from a deeper level. It has to break itself back down in the body. That's what happens in the stomach. And then it gets to where it needs to be to break itself down, and then has to build back up. And that's where the actual physiology, the creative game starts to play, where those essential amino acids come together, create the amino acid, and create that protein that creates that muscle. And if we don't use it, we actually store either as glucose, sugar, which can be inflammatory to the body, but also can cause us to have this up and down fluctuation in our energy levels, or stored as body fat. So again, depending on what you're trying to do, what your goal is, don't just think that eating anything with high amounts of protein is going to get you where you need to be. No, you want to be smart and strategic. It comes down to the quality, the timing, and the form to improve your overall human function and performance.